Hi, this is On Imagination with the Healing, and welcome to Shifting Perspectives. I was talking about the ninth perspective. This is lab again, and I'm going to go ahead and, a lot is moving. I'm going back to the ninth perspective. This is posted on my blog to articulate. Yeah, it's moving so fast. So I'm going to go ahead and all right, I'm just going to talk. It wasn't dignity that I felt, the ninth perspective. It was an emotion. I had no idea what it was. I couldn't put a name to it because I hadn't experienced it. I was a narcissist. I felt the emotion of empathy. It was the first time I cared how other people felt. And it was the eighth perspective. The eighth perspective, when you finally talk enough, I developed the feeling of empathy. But I had no idea what it was that I felt, because we talk about empaths and empathy as, so what empaths really are is a projection of an individual's feelings onto another person. And a lot of people think that I'm feeling your emotions. No, you're not. You can't feel another person's emotions. Reality check. You are projecting your suffering onto other people because their suffering is your trigger and you haven't dealt with it. So when you, being in a slave culture that we're not going to give name to, when you hear about other cultures that are enslaved, you're not processing the pain that you've undergone, because we don't talk about the fact that we're a slave culture. Oh, but you can relate to it. Believe me, I'm Irish. We were enslaved too. It was fucking disgusting. The suffering of the Irish. It was a word I couldn't give name to. I wasn't allowed to feel that way. We're all feeling it. So we're all relating to how our cultures, our previous cultures, were enslaved. So we're projecting our current suffering onto our ancestors because it's a trigger. And we think that's empathy. And it's not. It's called a PTSD trigger. Bottom line. So when you see another person suffering, if you're overly sensitive to a child crying, what you're really doing is being triggered about the times when you cried and no one gave a fuck. So it was in the eighth perspective at the very end. No, I'm sorry, the ninth perspective at the very end when it was the eighth perspective. It was at the end of the eighth perspective when I started to value the emotions of others. I gave value to the emotions of others. I gave value to emotions. And I started to think and ask questions like, how would they feel if? But because I had no idea what empathy really was, I had no idea what to call it. But I cured my narcissism this last week, and now I understand it. Value to the emotions of others. How would they feel? I was starting to feel empathy for the first time, and I had no idea. So then I shut it all down. Well, I didn't shut it down. That then graduated me to the ninth perspective, where I learned how to integrate into logical emotion so that the value of the eighth perspective was empathy. Empathy. But the value of the seventh perspective was words with purpose. Words with purpose plus empathy. And then the ninth perspective gave birth to the integration of words and empathy. And there's the ninth perspective. When you learn how to value words and be empathetic towards others. Oh, I understand now. It's not something you can learn if you have narcissism, though. And then the 10th perspective is valuing your emotions. You learn to value your emotions. But before you value your emotions, you value others' emotions. Isn't that interesting? That the emotions of others comes first. Wow, that's fascinating. I prioritized the emotions of others first, and then valuing my own emotions. And then I valued logic because I had too much emotions. But then the 12th is logical emotions. And that taught me love. You can't love without empathy. Effective immediately, I'm going to be removing comments from my YouTube channel. The reason why is, first and foremost, my opinion, my work, my laboratory, my perspective is absolutely not up for scrutiny. Not at all. I do this work for myself. I share it with others to learn. It is not something I am open to receive feedback on. My circle of trust and my circle of psychologists and scientists are the people who I consult for feedback. I do not accept feedback from strangers. So effective immediately, I will be removing the comments from my YouTube channel because I do not value or desire the comments from strangers. Because, well, I'll be blunt. I have no peers for the most part. And the people who are my peers are in my circle of friends. And they have the expertise to comment on my perspective. So I will no longer be accepting comments. I'm a very private person, ironically. And this is one of my boundaries because I value my words. I value my words. And if you can find them useful, fantastic. You are welcome. If you cannot find them useful, okay, it's a free country. No, it's not. It's not a fucking free country. That is one of those societal lies. So now I'm going to move on from the 9th perspective and move over to I can feel it shifting again. I really can feel it shifting. Courage, pride, and vulnerability. Courage, pride, and vulnerability. Courage, pride, and vulnerability. Ah! That makes so much sense. So, emotions, and then logic, and then logical emotions, births love. There, I'm going to show you this because this is what every one of these things does, is that right there. It's another triangle. so that when you lay out the different triangles and it can shows boom, 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 it's absolutely a map. I love these things. So the first perspective is courage, pride, and vulnerability. Courage is one, pride is the other, vulnerability is the third. What does that birth? Because it births something. What does it birth? Courage, pride, vulnerability give you X. Solve for X. Courage, pride, trust. When you have trust issues, you have a problem with courage, pride, and vulnerability. There it is. And the next one is justice. The next one is personal law, accountability, and equality. And that gives birth to X, justice. Justice. And then the next one is silence. The value of words. And empathy. Silence, words, and empathy give rise to X. No. Communication. Silence, words, and communication. And that gives rise to empathy. And then the next one, the last one, is your emotions, logical emotions, which gives birth to love. Well, there they are. There are the 12 ethical stages, the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth. So it was just that. I had no idea that it was empathy. Yeah, it was the empathy that I was missing, that I wasn't understanding before. But now that I have the narcissism removed, I can see it now. Now you're supposed to combine all of these together. Courage with pride, vulnerability, with personal law, accountability, equality, with listening. It's not silence. It's listening. It's not silence. It's listening. With talking. And I like the words giving voice. Giving voice. Receiving voice. Receiving voice. Empathy. Emotional value. Logical value. Love. 1, 2, 3, 4, Those are the 12 ethics. Courage, pride, and vulnerability give you trust. Personal law, accountability, equality gives you justice. Listening, talking, and empathy gives you voice. Emotional logic gives you connection. Trust, justice, voice, one could say assertiveness. And then emotional, logical love is connection. Now, integrate and balance. Integrate and balance. I would say this year was accomplished. Nowhere on this list is humble or humility. There is this concept that people, it's a belief that people cannot be in check, that, and this is not trusting people. We do not trust people in our culture to make the right decisions. We do not trust people in our culture to, it's hard to explain. And the fact that this thing is crooked is bothering me, so just give me a minute. There we go. I'm going to get a level and put it on top of my camera. It's one of those 360-degree things. So I'm going through the logic of it over and over again, and it's checking out. Like it's full finally. I was missing empathy, and I was missing courage. Courage, pride, vulnerability to equate to trust, personal law, accountability, equality, justice. But this is personal justice. This is self-justice. Now, the voice does not feel right to me still. That tells me that that's not logically correct yet. Listening, receiving voice, talking, giving voice, empathy, kindness. Empathy, kindness. Empathy, kindness. It's not voice. Honestly, that's theater to me. It's how to be an audience and how to be on stage. It's almost like presentation. I need to go back to theater for this. And I'll tell you what it is. My brain is going, theater? Really? Theater is going to be on the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth? Why is theater on this thing? Like, that's bothering me, but it's communication. It is communication. It is the ability sharing. Sharing. Taking turns. Wow. This is like 2-year-old stuff. Taking turns. Taking turns. All right, we're going to go real primitive. 2-year-old stuff here. Taking turns. And we all know how many adults fail at this, right? Taking turns. Because it's the 7th, 8th, and 9th perspective. That explains why a bunch of adults don't know how to take turns. That's why when you're driving down the road, you see signs like, take turns. Take turns. Take turns. Really, really think about this. We stopped evolving at the 4th perspective. We are barely through justice. And we all have trust issues. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying that. I'm like, oh, that explains why we all have trust issues. And it explains why we all are incompetent when it comes to justice, because we can't figure this out, because most of us didn't even complete personal law. Yeah, so here's the graph, and we are here. Yeah, that explains everything. All right. Personal law, accountability, equality. So if I'm looking at listening, talking, empathy, this is about taking turns. See, I'm going to be blunt. This really digs at me. It strikes me as emotional transactions. It strikes me. And to the psychologists and the scientists who are watching my videos, I'm going to be very blunt. Look at my behavior change in the last 3 episodes. So I'm going to step away from this work for just a minute and give you some evaluation, because this is interesting. The reason why I record these is because as I realize this shit, it changes my personality and behavior. Have you noticed? Only the psychologists would have noticed. So here's what I noticed. The reason why I record the videos is because I want to watch my own behavior. As soon as you become aware, it affects, it internalizes, and it becomes part of your behavior. So as soon as I realized courage, it changed my behavior. As soon as I realized and gave name to the abuse that happened to me, that they treated me like cattle, it changed my behavior. Go back to my videos from 16 December 2023. And that was prior to me realizing I had narcissism. So the first step in all of this was I realized I was a narcissist. The next thing that I noticed is that I had a severe hatred for Christianity, which I knew, and it's because they hurt me and I needed to validate what it is they did to me. I also discovered the true abuse that occurred with my issues with tech, where my brother manipulated me with tech as a means for his ownership of me. And I also, on December 25th, learned my issue with gifting, how opening a gift very much was representative of me surrendering my own freedom. So this whole thing has been about freedom and how I was used as cattle to breed to keep white man alive. That all being said, then I discovered the emotion empathy, and I discovered the emotion courage. That in turn allowed me to look into sharing. I almost want to say kindness is empathy. Wow, kindness is empathy. Fascinating. And then gentleness followed. Courage. I understood, and understanding led me to being more gentle and patient. Now, you don't want to be self-sacrificial. And in order to pull that off, you need personal law. So I was able to say, I'm not going to allow any more comments from this point on, because that's not what my opinion is for. My opinion is too valuable for anyone to just pick it apart when you don't even prioritize words. So no, my opinion is absolutely not up for subjective review, not at all. So I will be removing that. And I can feel the kindness changing. So here we are on December 31st. These are the changes that took place from the 16th of December to the 31st of December. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things learned. 4 things psychologically removed, and freedom, empathy, courage, and sharing implemented and integrated. And at this, kindness, gentleness, patience, understanding completely altered my personality. This is fucking awesome. So yeah, let's break down perspectives, listening, talking, empathy. That's definitely taking turns. And I say listening, silence, talking. These are all elements, but the real true element there was learning how to take turns, which is vital. And I'm going to say it. emotional transactions. That is how I break down. This is all emotional. It's not all emotional transaction. Emotional transaction starts, no, Anna, read, trust, justice, communication. Think, Anna, think. This is economics. This is all economics. This is emotional transactions. The whole thing is emotional transaction. It's how to have an emotional transaction that leads to human connection. That's why we can't connect. This is the umbrella. The emotional transaction. This is the path of emotional transactions. That's what this is. This is the path of emotional transactions. This is the order of operations. Order of operations for human transaction. For emotional transactions. To achieve human connection. All right, this is the ingredients to create human transaction. Trust, justice, communication, connection. And we're supposed to achieve this by 12 years of age. Trust, justice, communication, and then in that dead center, love. And so is birthed the you of I. So you have to learn all of this first within the self, and then with a partner, and then as a community, and then as all. This is why we can't connect, because we are missing all of these ethical perspectives. And I have the ingredients for all. I know exactly what to do for each one of these. I feel exhausted. Courage, pride, vulnerability, trust. Personal law, accountability, equality, justice. There's something more there, that listening, the talking. This is the psychology of stage teaching. No, Plato already gave that to us. What did Plato call it? Plato called it, oh, how beautiful! I've been trying to figure that out for a long time. It's student teacher. It's how you learn and teach. It's sharing. It's vulnerability and authority being swapped. I never talk about this because parents and teachers aren't going to like it. But yeah, we really have our parenting and teaching fucked up. So here's how it works. You have vulnerability and authority, and you have to take turns. But that's not what's going on in our society. What's going on in our society is the adults are hogging all of the authority. And that teaches children to hog all of the authority. And then children who have a scarcity of authority grow up and they hog all of the authority. And then they, like children, look at their children and go, no, you can't have any, it's mine. Just like a bunch of assholes. That's what every parent and almost every teacher does, is they hog the authority. They hoard it. Now, that's not what was practiced in Alexandria. Not at all. There was an amphitheater for a reason. Why do you think that was? Why do you think a theatrical stage was with the audience raised and there was no stage or platform? Because authority and vulnerability. Because the teacher was put on the ground, looking up with respect to the students. Whenever I take the stage, I sit on the stage so I can make eye contact with the audience. It doesn't feel right standing on a stage while I'm talking down to people. It feels dirty to me. So when I take the stage, I either, this is why I don't do public speaking yet, is because I will only speak on a stage where I am in the center and down. I will speak at an amphitheater, or I will sit on the stage and make eye contact with the audience. I will walk among the audience. I'm 4'11". I don't tower over anyone, but I will not stand on a platform and talk down to people. That's condescending. I won't do that. Every parent does it. Every pastor does it. Every teacher does it. Fucking assholes. What's it teaching our children? Adults hoard the authority, so our children never learn how to share. So everyone's hoarding authority, and if you don't have the courage, if you don't have the 12 ethical stages, you have no idea how to get the authority. Suddenly it becomes a battle. Whoever is the biggest bully gets the authority. Welcome to our culture. That's what we teach our children. You want to teach your children as a parent? Crawl on the floor with them. You want to be a good teacher? Ask them questions. Open your mind. Take on the role of student. Sit in the class with them. How about if you hold yourself to the same fucking rules that you put on them? Because if I have to hear my daughter one more time tell me how they make these rules to lord over children while they are treated like shit, what the fuck are we teaching our children? So yeah. The 7th, the 8th, and the 9th perspective is about learning how to take turns with vulnerability, authority, and sharing, which is 100% how you learn and teach. It's also the emotional transaction with gifting. Because in order to have any kind of an emotional transaction with anyone, you have to first make yourself vulnerable by gifting your power and presenting your vulnerability to somebody. And that gives them the power to reject your gift while you are vulnerable. That makes sense now. That finally makes sense. And sure enough, it was when I was going through the 7th, 8th, and 9th perspective that I understood emotional transactions. It's because that is what I was learning at the 7th, 8th, and the 9th perspective, but I lacked the vocabulary to communicate it. So listening, talking, empathy, shallow words, let's go deeper. That is about sharing and having emotional transaction and swapping out the authority for the vulnerability with gifting. It's the ethics of sharing. If you want to communicate with someone, you have to share, which is why I'm taking my comments away, is because no one knows these rules. So I do not give audience to people who do not know how to present vulnerability to me. because it's not ethical to take. And this is why. This is my channel. And I have no problems showing you my vulnerability. But what vulnerability are you giving me? And that's okay. I'm fine with that. But it means you don't talk. There. That's the exchange. I'm vulnerable. I'm raw. I'm showing you my real self. And that's going to cost you. Your opinion is not wanted. There. There. Now, my friends, the people who have earned my trust, who are in my circle of trust, oh, I value their voice because I made sure that they were good, ethical, valuable people before I allowed them my audience. And I respect them and gift them with my vulnerability. And I am their student also. But I choose my teachers very wisely because my perspective is highly valuable because I really, really worked hard for my perspective. Empathy. I can finally feel kindness and justice. And I can finally feel empathy is just kindness and gentleness. That's all it is. It isn't feeling someone else's emotions. Don't you dare call yourself an empath again. That is a sloppy word, and it's denial. Empathy is kindness. That's what it is. And you don't get that feeling until you hit the 9th perspective. You have to earn it, which is why assholes run the world. Because almost no one has made it past the 4th perspective. Wow. Align and balance. Why do we have to understand before why are we cruel before we understand? I don't like that about us. Why are we cruel? Intolerant? Well, my year was very productive. I would say this was the most productive year of my life. Oh, I'm doing it. All right. What did I do this year? Well, I solved mental illness. I ended my multiple personality disorder. I got rid of narcissism. I identified the 12 stages of ethical perspective growth. I launched my business. I refined my business. Everything I lost is now worth it. Yes, I'm going to just soak that in for a minute. Everyone and everything I lost was worth it. Yeah, you're going to lose people. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be worth it. It'll be worth it. It's worth the pain. Oh my God, was it worth the pain? 1,000,000 times over. That's it. Yeah, it was worth the loss. And it was worth the pain. And yeah, I would fucking do it again in a heartbeat. For this reward, I feel really happy right now. Oh, this is happiness. Oh, so this is happiness. Oh, oh, I understand. The pursuit of happiness, it all makes sense now. Oh, so this is happiness. I have a new emotion. Oh my God, I wonder if I'm on to the next perspective now. I do have a new emotion. Oh, I'm so happy again. Oh my God. Oh, this is happiness. Wow. Oh my God. Yes, it's worth it. It's worth it. All the people you have to lose and all the pain you have to feel is fucking worth it. Every time you complete a new perspective, you get a new emotion. So this is what everyone talks about. I explained it back in the seventh, eighth perspective. I'm going to try and explain it again. Oh, I have the words now. I can do it. All right, let's do it. Ready? Emotions have depths to them. And in the first 12 perspectives, you feel a fraction of their power. You don't get to really start to feel emotions. Yeah, you heard me. Until the 10th perspective. That is when you really start to feel emotions. Yeah, they're that powerful. Everything prior to the 10th perspective is a baby emotion. Which is why it is so fucking important to master this shit before you move on. I would say that they're shallow emotions, that you are only feeling the surface. But you can't feel them truly until you get to the 10th perspective. You have to feel empathy, kindness, before you get to really feel emotions. You see, emotions are feelings that come from here, which is why I'm holding it here. But you're feeling emotions here because what you're really feeling is cognitive dissonance. It's not an emotion at all. Pain is not an emotion. Fear is not an emotion. It's a chemical. Fear is a chemical that actually blocks your emotions. Yeah, definitely. Your emotions are something entirely different. Courage is an emotion. Pride is an emotion. Vulnerability feels so good. Weakness is fear. Fear of vulnerability. Weakness is the fear of vulnerability. Words matter. Wow. So this is happiness. I know I just switched to the next perspective. You know, I sent my partner a letter and I said to him, quote, a new good feeling that I can't identify here. It's like, I got a new feeling and I don't know what it is. Now, it's not the same thing that I felt for him. There was something else there with him. Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea what that emotion is. I still feel it. I feel it. Oh, that is something. And I have no idea what that is. That is a new emotion. What is this emotion? It feels like I can't explain it. I have another emotion in me right now, and I have no idea what it is. This is so fucking exciting. It's beyond warm and fuzzies, and it's right here. I'm feeling it all right here, and I have no idea what the hell this is. And it's just this, it's calm. It's like pudding. No, not even. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea. I just know I have a new feeling toward my partner, and I don't know what it is. We are going to call this emotional fuzzy pants. That's right, emotional fuzzy pants. I have no idea what this emotion is. Emotional fuzzy pants. And I cannot explain it. Emotional fuzzy pants is the feeling, I just don't know. It's unidentified. And until I figure this emotion out, I am going to call it emotional fuzzy pants because this is my lab and I like emotional fuzzy pants. And I discovered the feeling of happiness. The pursuit of happiness was a bitch, I must say, but it was worth it. I'm very excited right now. I'm very, very happy. You know, I'm sitting here going through this over the last year, and I'm like, something doesn't make sense. Like dignity. When I got to dignity, I'm like, no, that's not right. That's not right. I'll go back to it later. But for now, I'm going to call it dignity. But it just didn't fit right. And it's because I had no idea what empathy was. Now I know. Kindness. Kindness. Empathy is synonymous with kindness. And it's suddenly I want to be gentle with you because I value you. I valued you in the ninth perspective. But the narcissism blocked it. It took love to remove it. It wasn't until the 12th perspective that I finally figured it out. Love cures narcissism. Yeah. I'm really happy right now. It feels like a warm light right here, and it's just glowing and it's growing. And I don't know what it means, and I don't care, and I love it. And I also have emotional fuzzy pants in there also. I have the emotional fuzzy pants, which is so much, that's what I should have done with dignity. It's like I have an emotion. I don't know what this thing is called. It's called, I don't know. I'm going to call it dignity, but I don't know what it is. It's called nice, being nice. It's kindness. So this is the second time I have an emotion that I cannot identify. So I'm just emotional fuzzy pants. That's what I've got here. I've got emotional fuzz. I've got a warm yellow fuzz in my chest, and I can't tell you what it is. And no, it's not love, because I already feel that. This is something else. This is unidentified emotion X. That's what I'm going to call it too. Unidentified emotion X. Unidentified emotion X. Oh, I'm so excited about this journey I'm on. Unidentified emotion X. Courage. You know, when I was going through everything with my partner over the last 2 years, I didn't even think about it. You see, I had courage for everything except pursuing a relationship. I couldn't do it. I kept toggling between, nope, I don't want the pain, because I lacked the courage. It's the one thing. It was my weakness. It was my vulnerability. And I think that's what happened today is this morning, today, I hit vulnerability. I did. That's when I had my epiphany of, oh my God, it's vulnerability. And I felt it internalize. And as soon as I could feel my own vulnerability, I could be able to name my courage. You can't accept vulnerability if you don't have courage. And today I did both. I felt vulnerable and then I felt courage. And that literally, and then I could feel empathy. Look at this. This is what I fixed. I fixed vulnerability. And then I laid out my boundaries. That's what I did today. I defined vulnerability for the third perspective. And then I defined my boundaries and laid out my personal law, which I already knew, but I needed to revisit it. This is, again, for the psychologists and the scientists in the room. Holy shit, right? Vulnerability and then boundary. And then I could piece in courage. I required my boundary to have courage. Wow. Courage without boundaries. No, vulnerability without boundary. There wasn't. As soon as I acknowledged my vulnerability, I went, nope, boundarying up. I need those. And that's when I found my courage. Vulnerability plus boundary equals courage. But my mother was toxic. My father was toxic. My safe place was toxic. So I learned it in the wrong order, and so will you. This is it. You're already vulnerable. Oh, I think I found out how to cure the first, second, third, fourth perspective. It's vulnerability plus your boundary, and then you can find your courage. And once you find your courage, that's your defense system. Your defense. That's it. And then I could afford to feel kindness. You cannot afford empathy if you don't have courage and boundaries and vulnerability. To Rome, I say, checkmate. And then you can find love. And then you will know happiness. Vulnerability is your power. Oh, I'm going to be spending a lot of time with that emotion. But that's it. I know how to make myself vulnerable. I'm not scared of my vulnerability. I'm throwing myself all over the place here. I know how to be vulnerable without boundaries. Oh, good God, that's when pain happens. I understand now. I'm tired. I'm really tired now. And I really want to just fall apart and cry. This is absolutely conclusive. I can feel all of it. The logic is insurmountable. And I cannot deny it. I'm so gentle and soft now. I really hope this lasts. I'm going to manifest this. Make it last, make it last, make it last. Because I value gentleness. I value tenderness. And I wanted it with everybody, not just my partner. I wanted it with everybody. My mother would say to me, be a lady. I never talk about this part. She would ram it down my throat, be a lady. At a time when I needed to be a warrior. And every time I was a warrior, she would slap it in my face. You got to be a lady. They weren't deserving of me being a lady. Now it is. Now I am. My God, there's no fear. It's amazing. I will only be on stage if I can walk among the audience, or it's an amphitheater. I must perform in an amphitheater. No exception. It's the only stage I will step foot on. I feel guilt otherwise. I know it's about, no, it's not about being seen. The Greeks had it right. The arrogance of the Western Roman mind got rid of the Greek amphitheater, and so they elevated the days like a king on stage. I have a lot to think about. I do feel inconclusive here. I'm sorry. I feel very conclusive here. I definitely feel at the end. I really feel good. So, thank you so much for being my audience. Thank you. Happy New Year. Why does that feel wrong for me to say? Something about it just doesn't feel right. Thank you, and may the kindest of words always find you.